And it's 1 p.m. here, which means it's 11 a.m. GMT and 7 a.m. EST. So it also means that most of my American audience is probably still asleep. I'll see you in a bit. All the videos are up now in the event, in the on my Facebook page, and also on YouTube. Like, we upload them as soon as I get them online. So another giveaway of a book, and this sort of bleeds into me being. I'm going to use the F word. I'm, of course, like most people who know me really well, know that I've taught gender studies at the university in Utrecht in the Netherlands, and that I am a feminist philosopher as well. I should finish a PhD at some point, but I don't think it'll ever happen because I love this job much more than finishing a PhD. And also the feminist philosopher, Braga Ettinger, that how do you follow a philosopher? I don't know. The work I'm most intrigued with, I use that in my fiction as well. Like, I use those philosophical principles and I try to work them out in my fiction. So for me, I always try to separate my academic self and my creative self. Until one of my colleagues, Milica, one time just sort of like shook me, like took me by the shoulders and shook me and said, but these two, like, this is all you, like it's combined, it's connected. You cannot separate the two. It's what makes you who you are. It's what makes me tick. It's what makes me do what I do. And that is where the following book comes in. You saw it in the title, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. Virginia Woolf has been highly influential when it comes to women's rights. She wrote a lot about the state of women's writing in her day. Criticized the fact that women were criticized for not putting anything substantial out there, and that's actually what this book is about. So in this book, what she does, A Room of One's Own, what she does is she takes a critical look. She looks at the library, she looks at the system, she looks at the university system. Who is invited, who isn't invited? Like, who's invited to dinner? Who is invited into the spaces where knowledge is produced and where knowledge is kept? So she remembers moments when she wanted to walk into the library and she couldn't get into the library because she was a woman. She was not allowed. So her point in this book is that, instead of just sort of like weighing the sexes, like, okay, let's compare them, like who's a better writer? Is it men? Is it women? What she does in this particular book is she says it's no wonder women don't get that much chance to do anything substantial, because we're not invited in, we're not invited into the system, we can't even get into the libraries. It's very difficult for us to get into the universities. And of course, she wrote this book so long ago and things have changed in the meantime, but still it's not, I wouldn't say the system is equal, not just when looking at women but also looking at other minorities. I mean, there's a reason why someone like Jo Rowling was advised to put J.K. Rowling on her books instead of just Joanne Rowling, because what if there's a woman's name on a book? Like, will boys not read it? I don't even know if that's the case, but I think a lot, there is that fear. And I know so many writers who struggle with that. Like, if they pick a pen name, what kind of pen name do they choose? Like, do they choose something that's unisex? Do they choose something that's more masculine? Do they use the initials? Just so people won't not read their books because the author is clearly female. So even though we've come quite far since Virginia Woolf published this particular book or wrote this particular book, we still have places like we're not there yet. And I will always be an advocate. And I actually already did a video on this book recently when I went to see Colette, the film with Keira Knightley, which I highly recommend. It's the same kind of story, a woman who's a very excellent writer, but it's her husband who takes all the credit because she's a woman. And she's not supposed to be so outspoken, to be such a public figure, because she's a woman. And that actually already made me think of this book. And it's one of the reasons why I want to give it away, because it's such, how do I say that? It will give you insight into why we are where we are today and what happened in between. But also that it's not just about women not being able to write certain kind of books or not wanting to have such careers. It very much discusses the system behind it and says it's no wonder that women are a bit behind, and we're still catching up. So I want to read something. I read something else in the other video. I want to read something from this book, just to give you a sense of her voice and what she's doing. So when she explains it, it's very eloquent how she phrases her arguments. So at the end she goes like, okay, I've been talking about the importance for women to write. Well, let me explain you why. So I'm going to read this to you. So she says here, so for me that's page 131. As I said, I'm giving away this book. I bought this particular version in my favorite bookshop in Utrecht, Savannah Bay. And I don't know if I can get you this particular version, so it might be another version. I'll try to get, because it's a lovely hardback. It's a Penguin classic. It's really lovely. It's very small, but I can't promise you to get this exact edition. But I'll try. If you want, of course, if you want the ebook, different story. But if you want this one, I'll try to see if I can get a hold of this one. Okay, so she says, still you may object. Why do you attach so much importance to this writing of books by women when, according to you, it requires so much effort, leads perhaps to the murder of one's aunts, some argument she makes early on, will make one almost certainly late for luncheon and may bring one into very grave disputes with certain very good fellows? My motives, let me admit, are partly selfish, she says. Like most uneducated English women, I like reading books in the bulk. Lately, my diet has become a trifle monotonous. History is too much about wars, biography too much about great men. Poetry has shown, I think, a tendency to sterility. And fiction, but I have sufficiently exposed my disabilities as a critic of modern fiction, and I will say no more about it. Therefore, I would ask you to write all kinds of books, hesitating at no subject, however trivial or however vast. By hook or by crook, I hope that you will possess yourselves of money enough to travel and to idle, to contemplate the future or the past of the world, to dream over books and loiter at street corners and let the line of thought dip deep into the stream. That's what she says. And that's one of the reasons one of the conclusions of the book, and that's why it's called A Room of One's Own, is that one of the reasons why women, and I would say that should resonate with a lot of women writers, one of the reasons why women haven't written as much as men do is because, and that's her thing, like women need 500 a year. So for that, in those days, that like these days, that was enough to live by for a year. 500 a year and a room of one's own. And I think this is such an interesting thing, because so many of my clients are mothers, and they still struggle with that, like the guilt they feel when they have to tell their children, this door is closed now, you're not allowed in. So we still, whatever she says in this book, it's still true. Like, we need a particular amount of money, and of course what we have these days is that don't quit your day job until your fiction makes enough work, or your non-fiction, whatever you write. But we need that lock on the door, like we need that private space so we can like loiter, dip deep, and write whatever we want to write. So it's so much resonates, even though it's a classic, it still resonates with where we are now. So we have still plenty of steps to take before we get to the point where she wants us to be at this book. So if you want a copy of this gorgeous essay, go to the link in the comments and sign up for the birthday giveaway. Okay, see you in about 50 minutes. I will interview Sheena Mary Halfpenny on intuitive coaching and the Akashic Records. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, stay tuned and we'll explain all about it. Okay. See you in a bit.